So, Those Who Wish Me Dead, the latest film from director Taylor Sheridan, who is also credited to writing Sicario, Wind River, and Hell or High Water previously. Wind River was his directorial debut, and this is his second film that he's pretty much helmed himself. Now, previously we did a kind of breakdown analysis talk about those three films leading up to the release of Those Who Wish Me Dead, which is starring Angelina Jolie and John Bernthal, based on a book by Michael Cortright. And I feel like I just butchered that name, regardless of the fact that I think the fact that I was thinking about how to pronounce the name made it come out weird. I think it's Cortright. I'm
go with that.
Cortright.
Say it with confidence, and it sounds right.
Yeah, it's like you just got to say it with confidence. But it's based on a book. Interestingly enough, we've spoken at length in the past about what a great writer Taylor Sheridan is. However, I think it's a point of... We're getting to a point where as he's starting to direct his own films, we're trying to decide if he's getting better or if maybe directing, it's going to be hard to match the successes of the past. I think that's like the nice way to put it. Because I really like his directing style. But as we talked about when we went over Wind River, I felt like some of the same problems that Wind River had are prevalent in Those Who Wish Me Dead. What do you think?
I feel like this is a much better directed movie than Wind River. I think it's a much worse written movie than Wind River.
I
think that in terms of the story and characters, now he is the one of three credited writers, and he's the last credited. So I'm not saying this as like a knock on him necessarily, but this movie had none of what I really enjoyed about his prior three movies when it comes to story and character and pacing.
I thought there were elements of the writing that really were reminiscent of his prior movies and that I really liked. I think on a scene-to-scene basis, I liked the writing frequently. I liked some of the dialogue. You could hear that Taylor Sheridan tone. However, on a plot basis was where it started to fall apart a little bit for me. But the film felt a little bit out of its time to an extent. You know, like it didn't feel like a very current movie. Yeah. I mean, based on a book that came out in this decade, I think 2014, right? Yeah. And you know, when you're basing on a book, it's hard. You never know how much to put on the director themselves or the book, and you know, how faithful was it to the book, so on and so forth. But it felt a little bit almost too contained, to a point where I love a good contained story, but it was one of those stories where, without dropping any spoilers, the end felt a little underwhelming to me.
I think that I think it's like the most dated modern movie that I've seen in a while. If this, like, remember The Little Things? It was like, oh, the script had been around since the 90s. If they said that this was like a script that they just found in the basement of like some Hollywood screenwriter, they're like, this is a script that was supposed to be produced in the 90s with like Bruce Willis or something, and they were just like, let's find a star that we can bring back and turn it into an Angelina Jolie vehicle. I would totally believe that, but it is a 2014 written book, 2019 shot movie, 2021 release. It's
not
it
like
feels
a particularly
very
bad
dated.
way.
No, but it checks all the boxes of a barely 100-minute 90s thriller.
Yeah,
that is very clearly a star vehicle. And like especially the first 20 minutes, it was the most like exposition heavy, jumpy cut, like establishing these characters here and there in a really sloppy, really quick, like cut to here, cut to there, cut to here, cut to there way. That it was a good 30 minutes before I felt like the movie had any sort of momentum in a positive direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't really have a problem with the momentum of it. I actually liked some of the establishing.
Oh, it also has the most 90s hitmen in the world.
Yeah, they are. It was a lot of things were different from what I expected. I think it's hard to explain. I will say I enjoyed Angelina Jolie's portrayal. It was nice to see her in a film again. She just isn't in enough films to me these days. I think she's a great actress. I think she did a good job with this film, and I liked her character. I thought she had some decent character moments as well as development, and she played well with the child actor.
Yeah, I think the kid's the standout in the movie. I think he's really good.
He did a really great job. John Bernthal and his wife were great characters.
Yeah.
I actually wasn't expecting Bernthal to be in the film as much as he was, so I was happy to see him.
Well, I think part of my issue with it, and part of my disappointment with it, is that you see in the 3 prior solely Taylor Sheridan written movies, he plays with cliches a lot in an interesting way and flips them and reverses them. And in this movie, in the first like 20 minutes, you get the guy knows something very vague cliche instantly, like right off the bat. You get the very cliche hitman. You get the whole I'm gonna give you a piece of information, don't look at it, and then try, like you get like 4 or 5 very very cliche thriller aspects played very straight, no like reversal, no subversion of it. Is very straightforward, very cliche for like 20 minutes. I feel like there's a few moments later on with John Bernthal's character actually, and his wife, where they subverted some cliches, and there were some surprises there. That's why I feel like the momentum really picked up in the back half. I feel like the last 2/3 of the movie are what the whole movie should have been. Like it's really quick. It is a 100-minute thriller. It should be super fast paced, just really effective thrills. And I feel like specifically with John Bernthal and his encounters with the hitman and his pregnant wife's encounters, I thought those were scenes where I genuinely didn't know what was going to happen, because I didn't know what direction they were going to take it in, without spoiling things.
Yeah.
And I feel like those scenes really worked, whereas the first 20 minutes was very much like I've seen all this done 1,000 times.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it was one of those things where I would even say that it's not just the back half. For me, it was more the middle. I think I really liked the middle. Once things started picking up and there started to be some gunshots, and I don't say that because the action started, but like once things started to get extra tense, I liked where it was going. That being said, by the end, without getting into any spoilers, I was a little bit underwhelmed by the ending itself. Like it felt like there was a little more there. Like there was one more twist or one more beat that was just missing. And I found myself questioning, like, is this a product of the actual book? You know, is there a better buildup in the book? Like it just felt like things were starting to roll. Things were starting to get really intense. And then, you know, we pretty much roll towards our final victory, or, you know, without giving away spoilers, like just the general climax. And it felt a little bit like it just kind of happened and it was over, and it was just like, oh, that's the end of the movie. And maybe I'm just used to 2.5 hour films. Maybe I'm, you know, used to the big, more grandiose endings. But it wasn't that I was really looking for something more grand. It was just that from the trailers, the fire was made out to be, I feel like, a bigger deal and a bigger player than it was in the end.
Well, I mean, the fire was really just there to play into her fears, really.
Yeah. But the actual portrayal of the fire, it felt like something that was supposed to be looming the whole time. You know, throughout the film, they're taking signs from the weather. They're talking about previous fires, everything along those lines. And it felt to me like they were building towards something. And then when it finally got there, it was kind of like, well, it's there. There's a fire kind of coming. And then in the final, like 20 minutes, it'll be around. And we're going to escape it real quick. Like that's the goal. We're just going to make a quick little escape in a 5-minute scene, and that'll be it. You know, it just felt a little bit underwhelming.
I don't know. I didn't really have any problems with the ending. I mean, it plays out like exactly how you think it will.
And I think that maybe that's the problem.
And also, I mean, most of that ending scene is actually shown in the trailer.
Maybe that's my problem too. That, I mean, I think it's not that I'm expecting a big twist, but I was expecting a little more subversion, a little more.
I thought it worked fine because I think it's very clear in what it's trying to do and what kind of movie it's trying to be. It's trying to be that very straightforward star vehicle 100-minute thriller. Like it very much cuts off when it ends. Like there's no there's no flab on the movie at all. Like anything that could be cut is cut. There are crucial, or what you would think might be crucial plot details that are just absent from the movie. Like you are it's not a spoiler that you're never told why they're on the run specifically. It's just like somebody knows something, they're on the run. it is like anything that could be cut from the movie is cut. And I feel like that works in the movie's favor in the back half. Because it is just sort of back-to-back thrills. I think really like the two most effective genre moments are with the John Bernthal's pregnant wife.
Yeah.
And I think they make really effective use of very contained scenarios, like when she encounters the hitman the second time, and there's like one of the most thrilling moments in the movie is just watching them try to reload quick enough.
Yeah.
It's like that's really effective use of something very small. And I feel like that's where the movie succeeded, and that's where I was really impressed with Taylor Sheridan's direction. Because when moments like that work, it is all direction and editing.
Yeah.
And that's what I really liked about the movie. It just took a little while to get there, and it was losing me at the beginning. I just wasn't into it at all.
And speaking of moments, I can't close this out without taking a second to hats off to John Bernthal. His scene, once again, without any type of spoilers, but he does have a character moment scene where he's interacting with the hitman in the film, and it's a classic John Bernthal moment.
Yeah,
and he's such a great actor.
Yeah,
like that was a great scene, and I was really happy that he was in the movie more than I expected. From the trailers, I was like, he looks like he's kind of like a little side character that's like going to be around a little bit for like the beginning, but he actually stayed through to the end, and I thought he had good character moments throughout.
I actually thought he was going to die early on just because in the trailer I'd only seen like one shot of him.
I thought he was going to die super early in the film.
Like John Bernthal is such a like likable guy.
Yeah.
And he's really likable in movies, even when he's not playing a likable character.
Yeah.
He is in this movie, but you know,
yeah.
He just has that quality. And I just liked him so much in that role that I was like, oh no, John Bernthal's gonna die really early. In this movie.
I expected,
but he actually stuck around and had some of the best moments.
Yeah.
In the movie.
Yeah, and you know, I feel like I'm not even levying much criticism towards the film because I enjoyed the film. I think it was just I was really hoping that I think the movie in my mind is suffering from comparison, and that I keep thinking back to like, well, I know what you can do, Taylor. You know, I'm just like, I know how great, like you make some of the best films of the decade. You know, you can write stories that rank with the best films out there. And while I enjoyed Those Who Wish Me Dead, it wasn't one of the best films. Probably not going to be one of the best films of the year. Definitely not one of the best films of the last 5 or 10 years. And that's a high bar. So it's not like a expectation of like, it must be that, because not every film needs to be that. I enjoyed the film.
I'm a little like interested, like why, like what made him want to do this movie. Just because like, even thematically, it's like a huge step back from what he's like tried to take on in the past. Like, you know, Wind River, right? Even though I don't think it was as good as the Hell or High Water or Sicario, it was still clear like why he wanted to do that movie. It was still very clear that it was like he wanted to explore an issue that he thought was really important.
Yeah.
Hell or High Water clearly had a deeper meaning to him, and I'm not really sure about this. Like what was that interesting to him about this? Maybe the book had something in it that didn't translate to the movie.
Yeah.
But it is a very standard thriller. It has completely over the top hitman. Like in like the first scene that you see them and they literally just like casually walk away from a house that blows up. Like, oh no, things have got to escalate from here. I'm just like, you started by casually walking away from a house blowing up.
Yeah.
Thinking nobody saw you. It's just like, like you don't want to look at it from like too like realistic of a perspective because it is a movie. I'm not gonna nitpick that, but it is like when you have moments where it's just like, oh, things have got to escalate. It's just like, yeah, but they were already there. You blew up the house.
Yeah. Yeah. To an extent too, coming off of Wind River, when the very first opening, it's not a spoiler to say that the opening scene is like slightly explosive, if a bit on the nose with that description. But I was kind of thinking, I was like, okay, is he trying to up the ante? Like, how deep are we going? How brutal are we going to get? Like, how dangerous are these people? And I felt like opening up with while nowhere near as good, a Sicario like explosion surprise type of thing, I felt like it was not, which not to let it die by comparison to such a great film, but just saying it kind of seemed like he was going for something more eye-catching. And I feel like it set quite a little bit of a bar, and then the hitmen themselves were nowhere near as cool for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
Nor nowhere near as competent seeming,
Yeah,
which is not a major flaw. But
that's the issue. I thought
the hitmen themselves.
There's one
moment
where they like just where they shoot an innocent woman like on the spot, and I thought that did a decent job of establishing like that they're willing to do whatever, and it did make you think like, okay, will they kill John Bernthal? Will they, like, I thought that did a decent job of that, but slowly they're just less and less competent. Yeah. And they seem, it's like, yeah, they're kind of dangerous, but they also are making incredibly dumb decisions. And it was like, I don't know, when you have
what element of that is like humanity, or not necessarily incompetence, but being flawed? And then like what element of that is like wrong, you know? Like, should they be?
I think at some point it just came down to they just became really incompetent. I mean, they just popped this innocent woman out of nowhere, like right on the spot, killed her without thinking twice. But John Bernthal's a little more of a struggle. He doesn't really want to do that. Yeah, it's like, yeah, but nah.
Yeah, it became a little bit plot servicey.
Yeah,
I think towards the end, both their personalities and the choices that they made. Which I think in the end, though, made the showdowns between them a little less scary to me. I thought they were still effective. The climax scenes, the action sequences were effective. I don't have major criticisms for them, but I did feel like, I think that's part of what contributed to me being a little bit underwhelmed, was that they slowly got less and less menacing and less competent as the film went, to a point where I wasn't as excited to see someone take them down. I was more like, oh, you finally did it. You know, oh, like he gave you 10 chances, you know, like, oh, that's how we're getting there. So, but like I said, I don't want it to seem like I'm like the film for me is like dying by comparison. I enjoyed it. And I don't want to try and hold it up to films like Hell or High Water or Sicario. But I do think it's important to have them in mind when you're speaking about someone who has had a major creative role across all of those films. Yeah. But I think the verdict for me comes down to, I really, really would love to see Sheridan write again on some films. Yeah. I would never like discourage someone from doing what they love to do, which obviously if he's just dying to direct, you know, his money's probably better, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I would love to see him pair up with a really great visionary director again and continue to get the quality of films that he began with. Because while these films are not bad by any means, I think there's a relatively large quality step between Wind River and Those Who Wish Me Dead and Hell or High Water and Sicario. And the main variable of those is that he was a writer on the really, really good ones, and he directed and wrote the other two. So,
yeah, I guess like I even think Wind River is quite a bit above this one. I feel like there was a lot more going on that was interesting with Wind River.
I think it had a better emotional pull.
I just don't think it had the as like visceral moments as Hell or High Water did. Whereas this one, I just feel like it wasn't effective enough as a straight genre thriller, and there wasn't enough to it to make it more than that. So it just kind of fell right in the like definition of a rental movie area, which is kind of how I feel in the end. It's kind of the definition of a rental movie.
It was one of those rental films where you go, oh, I liked that when you rented it,
and you go, was that the one that I'm thinking of, or was that a different
later, you're like,
movie?
Oh yeah, like, remember that movie with Angelina and Jolie in the fire? Yeah. Not exactly the name that you're gonna remember, but I think that pretty much wraps up everything about Those Who Wish Me Dead. Let us know your thoughts on the film in the comments below, and we will talk to you guys in the next episode.